Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in just about a minute or two. I'll be right back. All righty, well, let's get right into it. Good morning, everybody. It's Christy Kalansky here in the training department. Thank you for tuning in for our fourth in our four-part series of our List to Last listing training. Today is all about service. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about systems, some stuff that I have gathered over the years from other agents that they're doing, some best practices, and kind of put it all together so we make sure we are offering really great service from the very beginning of getting ready to go live all the way through post-closing. And the goal of that, of course, is to do such a great job that the referrals just kind of keep rolling in. So we're going to help you build some really great systems. So that is the case. I am on my own today. So Victoria's got to hop on another call. Make sure that you do me a quick favor. All of you guys are muted. So locate your question panel, and that's where you can type questions in. I'll take breaks kind of throughout this morning and make sure that we get all of those burning questions answered. Okay. Well, let's get right to it. I hope you guys can all see my screen. Can't believe it's already July 29th and we're already on our fourth session. Time flies when you're having fun. So just a quick refresher, why do we want to help you guys all be great listing agents? All of these wonderful reasons, right? We have a contract, meaning we are likely going to get paid, more control over our schedule, which is a great thing, especially since buyers agents right now are running around doing a lot of work and sometimes missing out, or a lot of the time missing out on their clients getting the home. Listings also generate leads, and what I'm going to show you today with these systems that we're going to walk through is these listings will also generate lots and lots of referrals. More control, so that just means you get to pick the location or the neighborhood that you want to work in. Maybe it's something that's closer to your house, it's a little bit more efficient on your time, or a neighborhood you know and love, and you get to pick the clients that you serve. Open houses, you will look at those nosy neighbors in a very different way because they are potential future sellers and great folks to add to your CRM. We're going to talk about that today. Your efforts matter. Just like we talked about, buyers agents are putting a lot of effort in and having some challenges. So as a listing agent, you get more of a payoff and fewer of those emergencies, fewer of those dinners that you have to interrupt with your family and drop everything and go show a house. So that's sort of the reason behind what we're doing today. So let's really kind of hone in and talk through service. So here's what we are going to cover today. We are going to give you guys some really great checklists, emails, communication, and best practices all throughout each of these pieces of the process. So from seller consultation to going live, being live, offers, pending, closing, and then even beyond that. So post-closing, what can we do to offer good value, stay in touch with our sellers to keep those referrals coming and offer really great service to our people. So that's a quick overview. We're going to sort of break today down into four pieces. So we're going to go in depth with the seller consultation, going live and what to do when you are live to provide really great service. What happens when offers start to come in? Again, how to provide really great service at that point. And then after the transaction, once you close, what are some really great ways to kind of keep in touch with your folks? So let's dig deep into this very first kind of section one, and that is the seller consultation. So we're going to break this down. So in our last call last week, we talked a lot about some dialogues and some prep work for that initial listing appointment. So we're going to even break it down a little bit further here, and you guys will all have a copy of this presentation if you want to recreate any of these checklists for yourselves. I would definitely suggest that there's some really great stuff in here. So pre-appointment, here are the checklists for all of us as listing agents of the stuff that we need to make sure that we accomplish before that initial appointment. So it's things like entering that person into your Tucker CRM, so making sure that you keep track of them over the years. When is that appointment scheduled? Getting that on your calendar. But then it's also the type of information that we talked about with Chase last week of looking at tax records and seeing if the home had been listed before. Any of that pre-work that you can do prior to the appointment is obviously going to be very helpful for you. We've also included some stuff that might be new. Maybe you're not used to doing this, but checking Zillow for the Zestimate. We know that our sellers are doing that. In fact, my mom still swears by Zillow, and I tell her every single time she's crazy and the numbers that she's being given are not accurate, but people love Zillow. So it's good to know what's out there on Zillow, just so you can address that when you get to the appointment. Of course, confirm your appointment and prepare your listing docs. I also think this is a great time to get your dot loop room set up. Depending on the comfort level of the person, you may not know that until you actually get to the appointment, but are they going to be really comfortable with electronic signatures? Of course, most folks are, but maybe not a bad idea to go ahead and take a hard copy of the listing contract, your Tucker docs, anything else that if they're ready to sign right then and there, go ahead and get that sort of paperwork done. So those are sort of the checklist items for you as a listing agent pre-appointment. Now we talked, or you saw on this screen, there's a seller questionnaire form that's one of the checklist items prior to that first appointment. Here's an example of something an agent in our company uses. I know lots of agents have different versions of these. This is one that I think we should typically share with our new agents in Leap. So this is just a great way to get some additional information, whether you send this via email or via a Google form, even better, or you're just having a consultation phone call, and this is the information that you're gathering. So it's just helping you obviously be way more prepared for when you get to the house. So that's that pre-listing questionnaire. We talked a lot about this again last week with what to do when you get to the home and how that tour might go, asking lots of really, really great questions, putting your notes together. But this is, of course, an important step in that process or within this system. Here's an example of when you take your notes. Of course, your seller may have some homework to do before you go live. So this is just an example of what you might want to provide them as far as changes that they may need to make prior to photography or prior to going live. The pricing presentation, of course, we had shared with you guys some supplemental videos all about pricing. We didn't really go into it in too much depth in one of our 4 live sessions, but this is just sort of an overview of things you'll want to address with your potential seller when you are figuring out a good price for the home. So that's bringing information, whether it's from Matrix or from Agent Metrics or wherever that may be, comparables, going through those with your client. I love the video where Steve Thompson shows us exactly how he prices a home, where you're actually going through photos of sold and active and pending homes currently, you know, that would be good comps for the home that you're in, and actually working with your client on, is this home better? Is this home the same, or is this home not so good? So getting to a great price with your client. So that's sort of the piece about pricing. Once you're good, once you know that they're using you as a listing agent and you arrive at a good price, here's another great checklist for us all as agents. So now it's time to really get our dot loop room up and running, getting additional documents signed should we need them, and then all of those other things that we need to do to get the home ready. So getting a key, getting the lockbox on the door, HOA information, the client homework. We're going to dig into this a little bit in the next couple slides, and I'm going to show you what I mean by client homework. There's more for them to do, not just getting the home ready, but they need to provide us some good information. Hire your photographer and maybe a stager if that's what you need. If you're doing drone photography, that might be someone else that you need to get scheduled and get hired. And then I love these pre-written emails that I'm going to show you guys here in just a second. So here are a couple examples of the client homework that we talked about on this pre-listing checklist. So it's things like, what are your top 10 favorite features of the home? Or what do you love about this area? What are your favorite restaurants? What do you like to do around here? So that you're obviously going to want to get from your seller and then work that into your marketing materials. And then the home facts is another great one. You know, what kind of amenities does your neighborhood have? What day is trash pickup? Is there an alarm? How much? All of that stuff that will inevitably be a question when you start having showings. It's great to just get all that information on the front end and then provide it to the buyer's agent once you go under contract. So that's an example of our client homework sheets. We talked about getting the photographer scheduled. This is an example of an email that you should share with your sellers about how to get the home photograph ready, because how we live in a home and how we want the home to be when we start showings and how it gets photographed are two very different things. So I absolutely love this email and use it religiously. It's a good reminder to probably verbal conversations that you've had with those sellers, just everything from, you know, make sure your curtains and windows are open, hide the clutter, remove items from your kitchen counter, all of that stuff that we say over and over and over again. This is basically just an email that reminds them what they need to do to prepare. It's always so nice to obviously follow up any sort of verbal conversation with something in writing. So I absolutely love this photography email. Don't forget too that a lot of these pre-written emails exist in Tucker CRM. This is one of them. So this would be a great one for you to just kind of have teed up and ready to go. If you're not a Tucker CRM user, you could always just copy that email verbiage verbatim, dump it into a Google or a Gmail email when you put it together and send it. So there's just lots of really great ways to get this information out there. Another thing to consider when we're talking about providing really, really good service, it might not just be scheduling your photographer and maybe a stager, but is this home special? Does it need something else? So we're seeing a lot of homes, especially like homes on the lake or where there's some really cool acreage. Drone photography is becoming increasingly popular and a great supplement to add if it makes sense for that home. Video, another huge one. Video has been around forever, but it really spiked during, you know, everything that's gone on this year because folks are a little more hesitant to physically enter homes, and sellers might be a little bit more hesitant to have those showings. So providing some sort of video content is really, really great. So think through that and what makes sense for that home. And it doesn't always have to be a step-by-step tour. Here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom, here's the laundry room, dining room, great room, blah, 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 blah. It could just be a video of this amazing backyard that we have with a great view of whatever it might be, or even a kitchen, like going in depth and showing if there's some really cool appliances and if the workspaces are really great. So think through that and get creative with your videos. But I would think at minimum, we should be including video with our listings. I've also loved to see agents start to include like a floor plan drawing. That can be really helpful, gives potential buyers a real feel for what it would be like to live within that home. So those are great as well. And then don't forget that you always have Tucker tours. Those are free. It's that video tour sort of slideshow of your professional photographs set to some music. And those are available as soon as the listing goes live in Tucker Toolbox. So don't forget to have your office staff add those links to your listing once it goes live. So just don't forget that those are there, and they're just something else that really sort of enhance that online presence. Okay. Here's another example of an email. This is also in Tucker CRM, and I love this. This is sort of that, hey, we're getting ready to go live. Here's what you can start to expect about this process. And of course, we as listing agents have all of these conversations verbally. Here's how showings are going to work, blah, 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 blah. But it's great to put it into an email so that your clients can reference that information later. You know, I just always like having it in writing. You know, please make sure your valuables are put away. You know, please make sure the home is in show ready condition all the time. Now, it's in this market, homes aren't sitting on the market as long, but we can all remember the days, I'm sure, where a client gets a showing request and they're like calling you, oh my gosh, we didn't make our beds and we've got dirty dishes in the sink. Just remind them, hey, every day you're on the market, there's potential for a showing. So let's make sure it's ready when we leave the house in the morning. So I love this email. Again, feel free to send it out of the CRM, make it your own, tweak it, or what I do is I copy and paste it from the CRM into my Gmail and send it out that way. But this is just a great sort of pre-listing, hey, we're getting ready to go. Here's what it's going to look like. So I'm going to take a quick pause and see if we have any questions about sort of that pre-work, getting at them all ready to go live, because then we're going to shift gears and actually talk about going live, being live, and what that looks like and how we can provide really good service at that point. So I'm going to take a quick break here. And I see a question came in, Byron. That's a great question. Where do we find emails in the CRM? There is a mass email section. It's one of the menu items over on the left. Mass email is what it's called. And once you go in there, there's a library of all the available CRM created, Tucker created, or if you have created your own mass emails, those are there. A little trick to search for any of the ones we're talking about today, they will all be named FCT and then whatever it is. So FCT pre-listing email is what that one would be called that I was just showing you. So if you just search for that FCT, that takes you directly to the FC Tucker pre-written emails. Great question. Okay, awesome. All right, moving on. So stage 2 is, what do we do when we go live and what do we do while we're live? How do we provide really, really great service to our people? So let's jump into that one. So we've got to enter or update information in 2 places. One of those is Tucker CRM. The CRM is great because you can now classify that new seller contact as a active client and do different things with them. We talk a lot in our CRM training about contact status and contact groups. Status is just where they are in the process. Are they a hot prospect? Are they an active client, past client, stuff like that? Contact groups, those are the ones that are fully customizable. And I love to put my buyers and sellers in specific year buyer and seller groups. So for example, if I had a new seller that I was entering into my CRM today, or I was changing someone's status or group, I would label them as a 2020 seller. And the reason I would do that is because then later, and we're going to talk about this in a second, so in our post-closing section, I can really easily pull out all my 2020 buyers or sellers and do specific things with them. So that might be inviting them to a client appreciation event, or doing an annual market analysis, or even something as simple as getting them their settlement statement in January so they can use it when they go to do their taxes. So I really love classifying people by contact groups so you can do something with different groups of people later. Really helpful, especially when we're going back and looking at buyers and sellers and past clients. Also in the CRM, you have the ability to apply activity plans. This is optional. We've, of course, created a number of activity plans for sellers in the CRM. You can find those in the activity plan section. And then same thing with the emails that we pre-wrote for you. Any of those Tucker activity plans are named FCT. So just do a search for FCT, and then you'll see what's all available there. Also in dotloop, you'll probably have some work to do once you go live. Make sure that you've got all your paperwork in order. You get it to your staff for processing, all of that good stuff. So those are sort of the 2 areas where you have to kind of keep track of these people for their transaction, and then just keeping track of your people in your CRM. Okay, so once we are active, I'm going to show you guys a new listing email that might be helpful once you guys go live. It's always a good idea to get some information out there to them on that day so they kind of know what's going on. And then just some additional value add or provide good service pieces. Some agents like to send just listed postcards. I think that's a great idea to the neighborhood. Schedule that first open house or schedule that first broker's open if it's applicable. Always a great idea to share that wonderful new listing in your office communication, whether that's your 4 o'clock email, your sales meeting minutes, whatever that happens to be. And then this is a really good time to set up calendar reminders throughout the process with that client. So whatever works for you. A lot of agents like to do a weekly update with our sellers. You might only have one update to do before you're pending in this crazy market, but it's a good time to sort of just build out that communication so you don't accidentally go too long without communicating, because that would not be great service. Here's an example of what that, now we're live email, what that looks like, again, in the Tucker CRM. Great idea, just copy and paste it into Gmail if you like, and make this your own, obviously. You might want to change the language a little bit to make it sound like you, but I love sending this out on the day we go live with that FC Tucker link to their listing so they can put their eyes on it, or the link to Matrix so they can put their eyes on it, make sure the information that you as the agent entered is accurate. They can let you know if there needs to be any changes. And then it talks them through, again, how our showing is going to work. They're going to either get a call or a text, or maybe both, or an email from showing time, what that's going to look like. I always, again, like to just remind them it's okay to, approve multiple showings at the same time if that's their wish, maybe in less of a COVID world. But that just creates competition, just kind of set the stage for them so that they're not asking you the same questions over and over again. They have a nice reference. And then it just reminds them how to leave the home ready for showings. So that's an example of that email. Now's our time to market, right? We are live, we have a contract, we are, firing on all cylinders. It's time to get the word out about this property. So it's just all of those things, creating flyers. If you're going to do an open house, perhaps you're going to invite the neighbors, like we talked about that in that very first slide. Those are great people to possibly add to your database. They could be future sellers. So a wonderful thing to think about. Maybe send postcards to neighborhoods that would be maybe a move up into this neighborhood, or a move down, or downsize. Highlight cards and home fact sheets. We're going to talk about that on the next slide. And then, of course, post to social media in your 4 o'clock. Are you going to do some reverse prospecting? Are you going to use the buy side reverse prospecting feature? Another great one. And then maybe go through your CRM and see if you have someone that would be a really, really great fit. Maybe it's a unique home, or a lake on the water, or has a pool, or just something that folks might be looking for in your database. It's a great time to connect them. These are just some examples of the home feature cards that you have availability to use from Tucker Toolbox. I love these when you're getting a house ready and listing it, because if you put some sort of key features up throughout the home, whether you use a tent card or you put them up on the wall, potential buyers absolutely love these. And if you've shown homes and you've seen sort of these feature cards around, buyers follow these through the home like rats in a maze. Oh my gosh, tons of grad storage. What else? What's next? Oh my gosh, granite in the kitchen. So cool. Where's our next feature? They are following these around like crazy. And I love using these tent cards for stuff that might not be super visible, like the floors in the master bath are heated. That might not be, yeah, of course you're going to put that in your listing information, but you don't really see something like that, and it's doubtful that someone's turning on the heated floor when they're there for a showing. So great time to use those feature cards. Ages of mechanicals, so helpful. How many of us are showing a home and they're like, how old's the furnace? And then we like, oh God, I don't know. You're getting a magnifying glass out trying to figure out how old is that dang furnace. Be helpful, provide good service as a listing agent. Put it right out there. So it's really easy for that showing agent to find and for buyers to understand a little bit more about that home. I love those tent cards. This list of updates, I use this pretty much every single home I list. I love being able to just have like a one sheet that we put out with the BLC sheet and the flyer on the kitchen table or on the island or wherever, and show a list of updates. Again, so helpful for people to see, what the seller has done while they lived there, ages of mechanicals. I love this example because it includes costs, so it's helpful for potential buyers, their agents, to see, what has been updated in this home. This is a great one to include in an appraisal packet. We'll talk about that later. Again, it's great for an appraiser to know what sort of things that seller has done, how recently, how that may have added value to this home. I also love to include this list of updates In the BLC, under that supplement section, you know, a good listing agent's always going to include the seller's disclosure, lead-based paint if applicable, but this one's great too. Make it easy for those listing agents to see what has been updated in this home. So this is just an example of what that could look like. And then the name of the game is providing good service. So what can we do to make sure that we are not forgetting about our sellers and providing good communication, timely communication to them with some sort of regularity so they don't think that we've forgotten about them. In one class, I've heard an agent say, you know, we might only think about our listing clients once a week. Maybe we call all of our listing clients on Thursday or Friday, and that might be the day that we think about them. Or if we have a showing, of course, we think about them, or if we get an offer, of course. But think of it this way, that seller is thinking of you, their agent, every time they leave their house in the morning and every time they come home at night because they're driving past your sign. So they're thinking about you. Be proactive with that communication. So at minimum, I would make sure that you're checking in with that seller weekly. Don't forget that you can automate some of this on Tucker Toolbox. And I know I showed you this in a previous list to last section or session. There is that seller report. So I like to automate that once a week for my seller to see what has the web-based traffic been for your home. You set that up once and you forget about it. You can set it up either weekly or daily, and that's on Tucker Toolbox. Sharing feedback. In those emails that I referenced earlier, one of them says, you know, here's how feedback will work. Once we have a showing, I will likely have feedback within 24 or 48 hours. What I love to do, and I stole this from another listing agent, I thought that this was just brilliant. She said she texts her clients immediately after every showing just to say, hey, you know, I'm checking in with the agent. I hope things went well. Haven't heard anything yet, or I have heard something yet, you know, whatever the message is, just to be super proactive, because there's nothing more frustrating for a seller, put yourself in their shoes, to know that you had a showing at 2 p.m., let's say, and 3 rolls around, 4 rolls around, 5, 6, 7, and you haven't heard anything. And a lot of times it is because we as the listing agents just haven't gotten the feedback yet, but that seller is, they're thinking, they're hoping, you know, after every showing that it's going to be an offer. So just be really proactive with that communication, and maybe just reach out a little bit more proactively than waiting on that feedback. So just something to kind of think about, and maybe what works best with your personality or your client's personality. Don't forget, you've got some great reports in showing time if you want to get them some additional information. And then of course, you know, you can set the expectation early on of, here's, you know, maybe we'll have a sit down every 30 days or so. Those aren't happening much in this market, but they will again at some point. Okay, quick pause on the sort of go live, be live communication, service model, and then we'll move on to offers. And don't forget, just type your questions in the chat if you have them. Okay, so Section 3, this is where the fun really begins, right? We start getting offers, yay. So let's talk through sort of what that looks like and what are some best practices to provide really, really great service when those offers start coming in. Of course, if you get multiple offers, super common right now, great idea to go ahead and put that notification in MyBoard. Just reach out to your branch staff and say, hey, we've gotten multiple offers. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to review everything by Friday at 5 or whatever it happens to look like. And they can update that accordingly in the agent-to-agent remarks in MyBoard. Great rule of thumb. And then obviously let anyone know that has submitted offers. The other nice thing is you can do a notification through showing time. So anyone that has shown the property previously or is thinking about showing it or it has something scheduled soon, they will get a notification that you are now in a multiple offer situation. Just another really great way to generate some more competition for your sellers. Obviously a good time to get yourself organized in dot loop. I suggest when multiple offers come in, when we do dot loop trainings, create different folders for each of the offers. So if you classify that new folder by potential buyers' names or by the agent names, that can be a really great way to kind of keep yourself as a listing agent more organized, and you'll have a record of everything within dotloop. The other reason I love that is, say you accept an offer and you're going down the road and then something happens with that buyer and they flake out or they get cold feet or whatever happens. If those other offers and agents' information are in dotloop, it gives you a starting point to, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, yeah, this didn't work out, but remember we had 3 offers. I'm going to go back and work it with those people. If they haven't found a home yet, they could still be interested. And then, of course, with any offer that you receive, it's a great idea to do a net proceeds sheet for your sellers. And there's a great one available on the Title Capture app. You can do it from your phone or from your desktop, and that's a great way to get your sellers, hey, here's how this multiple offers break down, or here's what you'll net from this particular offer that we received. Another great checklist for us as listing agents, putting up sold signs. I'm going to show you guys this accepted offer email, which is really, really great. And then I love this transactions details email that goes to all the parties of the transaction. We talked a little bit earlier about getting ready and preparing an appraisal packet. Appraisals are happening relatively quickly, I have found, in this market. Sometimes they're even happening before the inspection responses come through. Lenders are really on it with getting those done and not waiting for certain things to happen. So once you penned, it's a great idea to go ahead and get an appraisal packet put together. And we can talk, offline, or talk to your managers about what you might include. But some of the stuff we've already talked about would be helpful to include for that appraisal, like the home updates. That's a great one that we talked about a few minutes ago. And then I'm going to show you another pre-written email that might be really helpful for you and your sellers, and it's the what to expect during an inspection for the seller. We'll go through these here in a second. And then just another checklist. You guys will have this in the slides, so you can kind of go through this on your own. Okay, so here are, again, some more examples of some pre-written emails that you guys might find really helpful. So this is the, hey, congrats, we are pending. Here's what's going to happen next. Buyer's going to schedule an inspection. There's going to be an appraisal schedule, et cetera, et cetera. I even like this one because it talks about when the sold sign is going to go up. Lots of people get really excited about when's that sold sign going to go up, and every agent does things a little differently. Maybe they want to put it up right away. Some agents like to wait until they're through inspection. Some people like to just wait and do it a few days before closing. There's no right or wrong answer. You do you, but I would set the expectation with your seller so they know, when that's going to show up, because that's an exciting time for them. It also starts setting the expectation on the appraisal. So that's a really, really great email. This transaction details email, stole this from an awesome Tucker agent. And I think this is a great one where you as the listing agent can put all this together as far as who's the lender contact, buyer's agent contact, all that information, title company. You might have to work with the other agent on this, but then it's just a nice one sheet detail email that you can get to all the parties of the transaction. This wouldn't go to sellers or buyers, but it would go to their agents and the title company and the lender and all of that good stuff. So this is a wonderful one to consider using and providing really good service, not just to your clients, but to the other people involved. What to expect during an inspection. This is in Tucker CRM. It's just all that stuff that we tell sellers a million times, and sometimes some of it they hear and some of it they don't. You shouldn't be there for the inspection. This is how long that inspection could last. They're going to need to get to the electrical panel and the crawl space and the attic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a great one. Again, you've said it verbally, it's in an email, your bases have been covered. We're going to start kind of talking a little bit more today about, or in the rest of today's session, about referral asks. So this is the seller pending feedback email. Hopefully you are setting the stage for referrals right from the get-go, letting your folks know this is how I work and I want to build my business on referrals. To do that, I'm going to need your help. If I'm not doing a good job, let me know. please provide me feedback throughout the process. And if I am doing a good job, please consider passing my name along. So this is an example of something you could use to put in an email. I love doing this like after you guys get through the inspection process, because boy, isn't that crazy? And they're going to think you're a hero if you know you got them through that unscathed. So this is a great example of sort of that referral ask / seller feedback. Offers accepted, just, make sure as the listing agent, what do you need to order? Are you in charge of title work? Is the buyer's agent? What about the home warranty survey, etc.? And then that continued communication. Just because you're pending doesn't mean that kind of constant communication needs to stop. Here's another quick checklist for that sort of week of closing, all of those things that need to happen, prior to a walkthrough, blah, blah, blah. And then I love this pre-closing email that you can send again to your seller, just to remind them, now's the time to transfer your utilities. Now's the time to change your address, cancel any sort of automated subscription services so they don't show up for the new buyer at your old house, what to do with keys and manuals for your mechanicals, door openers, all that good stuff. And then highlighted is, and here is when your closing is scheduled for. This is obviously the very, very important one. So this is a nice, again, pre-written email that you'll be able to get to them. Okay. All right, quick pause again before we go into the final awesome section of post-closing. And what are you gonna do to keep those folks happy, thinking of you, sending you all of their friends? I'll take a quick pause for questions. Okay. Fourth, final section is, of course, post-closing. We closed. What happens now? How do we keep in good touch with our sellers? So a quick reminder checklist for you as the agent: obviously submit your closing paperwork in dotloop, send a thank you note if that client was referred to you. Side note too, hopefully that's not the first time you're thanking your referral source. I would do it on both ends of the transaction. As soon as they refer you somebody, and then when they close would be great. Keep that behavior coming. Do a social media post, market yourself, tell your client story, whatever makes sense for you, and then update that client's information in the Tucker CRM. So likely their home address has now changed because they were a seller. They don't live there anymore. So make sure you update that. Do they belong in a new contact group, or has their contact status changed? So just kind of clean up your CRM. It's a great time to do that. Honestly, right at the closing table is a wonderful time to sort of get that all buttoned up. And then our post-closing communication. And this is probably, of everything we talked about today, this is the most important piece. The last thing we want to do as listing agents is work really, really hard to find our clients, do a good job during the transaction, and then we close, we get paid, and we just sort of lose track of them. That's the absolute worst thing, because then we have to start all over with new clients, and it's kind of like a hamster on a wheel. So these sort of post-closing communications are going to help you provide good value to those particular sellers, stay top of mind so they hopefully are referring you, and just provide good value to them as well. So 2 days after closing, check in with that client. Hey, how'd the move go? It's crazy, moving sucks, it's been hot, whatever. Send that client evaluation survey. You could do this via paper, send them a self-addressed stamped envelope with some sort of a survey to provide you good feedback, testimonials that you as an agent can use on your social media, on your website, etc. Or you could do it via Google Forms. That has worked really well for me recently, where I just kind of send them an email with a link. Hey, please help provide feedback. Tell me how I did. Think of me in the future, please. All of that good stuff. So it's helpful to kind of get that out relatively quickly while the transaction is still fresh in their minds. I like to share my transaction documents via Google Drive in that same 2-day space when I send out my evaluation link, because those are electronic. Some agents like to provide transaction documents at closing. There's no right or wrong. You do what works for you and what works best for the client. If the client is just really not a tech savvy person, I would probably print them hard copies and organize them in a binder or a folder instead of sending them electronically. I like Google Drive because I can organize all of that pertinent information from the transaction, all of our signed contracts, any repair receipts that we did, all of that stuff. And then I can share just one specific cleaned up folder with my client, and then they've got a copy electronically. I've got a copy electronically. If anyone ever needs anything at any point, it's easy to get them that information. I also love using Google Drive because I've got the Drive app on my phone, and let's say 2 years from now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, Christy, can you please send me the invoice from the furnace repair that we had done at our old house on Main Street? We're in our new house and we really loved that technician, but I couldn't remember his contact information. We'd like to use them again. I can be sitting on a beach, sitting at my kids' soccer game, whatever it happens to be, and just hop into their folder on my phone via the app and Drive and share it right away. So I don't have to worry about digging through a paper file, scanning something in and getting it to them. It's just a really quick share. So that's my plug for Google Drive and why I like it. I would definitely call them probably even 1 month out and just make sure everything is still going great at the house, but a 6-month call, absolutely. Maybe invite them to lunch or to coffee. Heck, maybe they'll invite you by because they've been doing some little DIY projects and they're excited to show off their work. In 9 months from closing, let's do a referral reminder. So that could be, again, here's how I do my business. If you are satisfied with my service, please keep me in mind for friends or family. The January tax letter, that is also I'm going to show you an example of that in a second, but that is also in Tucker CRM. Remember, we talked about classifying buyer and seller clients by year. So you can really easily, come January 1, pull up all of your 2020 sellers and buyers and get them that information that's going to be pertinent, that settlement statement that they're going to need. And that's a great value add. They're going to love that when it shows up in their mailbox before they even knew they needed it, right? And then biannually or annually, you might like to do client appreciation events for your business, or just some sort of little thing. Pop buys are great as well. And then annually, I would highly recommend doing a neighborhood or a home CMA every single year for their new home or for your buyers specifically on the home that they bought, just to kind of keep providing them value and good information as far as what's happening, how prices are appreciating in their area. That's one that I love because it's what gets my phone ringing. People love that when they receive information from you that's helpful. They get it before they even knew that they wanted it, and it's great info. Okay, couple quick examples of some of those things we talked about. We talked about that January tax letter. Here is an example. This is just a letter that you could put with the Alta settlement statement and mail out to them so they have what they need when they go to do their taxes. And I think that was the only email example that I had. This one's also in Tucker CRM, so check it out there. I know some agents too just kind of print or copy their settlement statement and already put it with this letter in an envelope and then address it right after closing, drop it in a drawer, and then come January, they just pull that whole drawer out of all the stuff they need to mail and stamp it, put it in there, and it goes out. So another great best practice for those keep in touch items of value add. Okay, so we covered a lot today. I know that was a lot of information throughout the whole process, but hopefully you gained a couple great pieces of information as far as what you can do as providing service, really, really good service for your client. So everything from the seller consultation, going live, being live, receiving offers, pending, closing, and then very, very important, the post-closing stuff too. Make sure you're touching those people with regularity. So any questions? I don't think I saw any more come in the chat, but now is your chance to ask for any questions that you have. while you guys are thinking about that, as always, we will send out the slides from this presentation as well as a link to the recording by the end of the day tomorrow. That'll come from Tucker Training, so you have you know, a nice sort of recap if you missed anything, want to go back and reference anything. So many of those emails that we referenced are in Tucker CRM, so check those out there, or at least use those as a jumping off point. And I didn't see any other questions. I'll stick around for just a second in case anything comes in. But with that, boy, we did this in record time today. 15 minutes to spare. I'll give you 15 minutes back in your morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in for today's session. And if you did all four, thank you so much. Hopefully you got a lot out of it, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.